Have you ever felt a weight on your chest, a hurt that, no matter what you do, keeps coming back to steal your peace and your joy? Have you caught yourself reliving a painful scene in a loop, feeling the same pain as if it had happened 5 minutes ago? If the answer is yes, you are not alone. Many people live chained to pains from the past, thinking it's impossible to overcome. They feel trapped, affecting their peace and happiness. But the key to breaking these chains and freeing your future lies in a single decision. And today, I'm going to show you what it is. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Colossians 3:13. This verse reminds us that forgiveness is not just an act of kindness, but a necessity for living in peace. Just as God forgives us, we are invited to release the weight of hurt, not to benefit the other person, but to free ourselves. Holding resentment only imprisons our soul, while forgiveness opens doors to freedom, emotional health, and joy. Let us pray. Lord, help us to forgive from the heart, just as you forgave us. Free us from the pain of the past and fill our hearts with peace and love.
Let's call this pain by its name. It's the lack of forgiveness. It's a state of mind that transforms into a constant burden. Think of it this way. On the day you were hurt, it was as if someone handed you a heavy, rough stone. At first, you held it with anger, with a sense of justice, thinking, I'm going to carry this stone so everyone knows what they did to me. I will never forget. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. And you're still carrying that stone. Your arms ache, your back is hunched. You walk slower. The stone has become part of you, a dark extension of your body. You've gotten so used to the weight that you might not even remember what life was like without it. That stone is resentment. It's hurt. It's the thirst for revenge that may never come, or, if it does, won't bring the relief you imagine. This is the agony of not forgiving. It's reliving the scene in your mind again and again, each time with more details and more pain. It's a private cinema where the film of your pain plays non-stop, and you are the only spectator. By doing this, without realizing it, you hand over the key to your happiness and peace of mind to the person who hurt you. Their life goes on. They may not even remember what they did, but yours is on pause, controlled by a pain from the past. And this agony is not just mental. It shows up in the body. Science is very clear about this. Holding grudges is linked to a series of health problems. The chronic stress generated by resentment releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which can lead to increased blood pressure, compromise the immune system, cause chronic fatigue, and even increase the risk of heart problems. The lack of forgiveness can literally make you sick, affecting the quality of your sleep and draining your energy. It's the famous metaphor so repeated because it's so true. Holding a grudge is like drinking a glass of poison expecting the other person to die. You poison yourself day after day with bitterness, anger, and sadness. You feed these feelings thinking that somehow you're punishing the offender. But the only person who feels the effects of this poison is you. The person who hurt you may be living their life completely oblivious to your suffering, while you slowly consume yourself. This condition puts you in an invisible prison. The bars are made of painful memories, and the jailer is your own resentment. From inside this cell, you watch the world go by. You see opportunities for joy, for new relationships, for peace, but you can't reach them because you're chained to that past event. The lack of forgiveness colors your worldview. You become more cynical, more fearful. Future relationships are sabotaged by the fear of getting hurt again. Joy seems superficial because deep down, the old pain still pulses, dictating your reactions and limiting your experiences. You feel stagnant, as if your story stopped being written at the chapter of that offense. This is the true and profound agony of not forgiving.
Before we continue, I want to ask you something important. Are you ready to break free from this prison? If you're feeling the weight of unforgiveness in your life right now, I invite you to take the first step. Write in the comments, "I choose to free myself." This simple declaration is powerful. It's you taking ownership of your healing journey. Don't just watch this video passively. Engage with it. Commit to it. Your breakthrough starts with this decision. So go ahead, write it down. I choose to free myself.
If you're ready to transform your life, type in the comments, "I choose to free myself." Today you decide that forgiveness will be your key to peace. I know what you might be thinking. Forgive? But you have no idea what they did to me. It was unforgivable. Forgiving would be agreeing, saying it wasn't that serious. It would be a sign of weakness. This is the biggest barrier that prevents us from moving forward. What if I told you that forgiving has nothing to do with the other person? What if I told you that forgiveness is actually a radical act of self-love? This is where we need to turn the key. Completely redefine what forgiveness really means. The first and most important lesson is, forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for you. It's your liberation. It's you consciously deciding to stop drinking that poison. Let's break down the myths, one by one. First, forgiving is not forgetting. The memory of what happened will probably always exist, and forcing yourself to forget can even make things worse. Forgiving, however, is remembering the pain without letting it control you. It's looking at the scar without feeling the wound bleed again. The scar is proof that you survived, that you were stronger than the pain. Forgiving is neutralizing the emotional charge of that memory. Second myth, forgiving is not justifying or agreeing with the other person's mistake. Forgiving doesn't mean, it's okay, what you did was acceptable. Not at all. The act may have been wrong, unjust, and cruel, and you should recognize that. Forgiveness doesn't remove the offender's responsibility. Justice and forgiveness can walk together. Forgiving is simply deciding that you're not going to carry the burden of anger and the desire for revenge. It's saying, what you did was wrong, but I'm not going to let your mistake define the rest of my life. Third, and perhaps the biggest myth of all, forgiveness is not weakness. It's the exact opposite. It's an act of supreme power. It takes immense strength to look at deep pain and say, you're not going to dominate me anymore. It's an act of emotional intelligence. Being stuck in resentment is allowing the other person to continue to have power over your emotions long after what happened. By forgiving, you regain control. You take back the key to your happiness that you unknowingly gave to that person. You become the protagonist of your story again.
We cling to the lack of forgiveness due to a false sense of justice or a distorted self-protection mechanism, thinking that if we stay angry, we'll never be hurt again. But this armor of anger is too heavy and prevents us from embracing life. The great redefinition is this: forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. The first person to benefit from forgiveness is the one who forgives. It's not about forced reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still decide that this person should no longer be part of your life. This is called establishing healthy boundaries. Forgiveness happens within you. It's an internal change, a decision to reclaim your peace. It's choosing freedom instead of prison, health instead of sickness, and the future instead of the past.
Imagine a man who spent 30 years building, with his own hands, a prison cell. He mixed the cement, forged the bars, and designed the most complex lock his mind could create. He did all this with one purpose: one day to capture his greatest enemy and lock him there forever. Finally, the cell was ready. With one last effort, he closed the heavy iron door, turned the key, and felt a wave of emptiness. He looked around and, to his horror, realized the truth. He was on the inside. He had spent his entire life building his own prison. This story is a powerful metaphor for the lack of forgiveness. The cell is resentment. The builder is you. And liberation, the solution, begins the moment you realize that the door was never locked from the outside. You always had the key. Forgiveness is the act of using that key to open the door and step out into the sunlight. When you make the decision to forgive, a profound transformation begins. The first sensation is lightness. That weight, that stone you carried for so long, simply dissolves. It's as if you could finally straighten your back and breathe deeply for the first time in years. This lightness is not just poetic, it's physiological. Stress and anxiety levels begin to decrease. Your blood pressure can regulate. You start to sleep better. The energy that was previously spent fueling anger and reliving pain, this immense vital energy, is now released. And what do you do with all this energy? You invest it in your present and your future. You use it to build instead of destroy, to create new happy memories that will gradually overlay the old ones. You use it to reconnect with your dreams, your hobbies, your passions. You rediscover joy in small things, the warmth of the sun on your face, the taste of a good meal, a friend's laughter. Forgiveness also transforms your relationships. Even if you don't reconcile with the person who hurt you, the act of forgiveness frees you to connect more authentically and healthily with others. Without the filter of bitterness and distrust, you become more open to love, friendship, and empathy. You stop projecting past pains onto present people. This strengthens the bonds you already have and opens space for new ones on a ground of trust rather than fear. Forgiving is, in essence, an act of self-love. It's you looking at yourself with compassion and saying, I deserve peace. I deserve to be happy. I deserve a future that is not dictated by the pain of my past. The liberation that forgiveness provides is the recovery of your emotional sovereignty. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your destiny. You understand that while you can't control what others do, you have absolute control over how you respond to it. This liberation opens doors to personal growth. By processing the pain and choosing forgiveness, you become more resilient, wiser, and more empathetic. You learn valuable lessons about yourself, about others, and about the nature of healing. Forgiveness transforms poison into medicine.
the wound into a source of strength. The solution, therefore, is not magic, but a conscious journey back to yourself, which begins with the courageous decision to open the door of your own prison.
Understanding the power of forgiveness is the first step. But how do we do this in practice? Forgiveness is rarely a switch you flip. It's more like a path you decide to walk, a process that requires intention and patience. There's no magic formula, but there are practical steps that can illuminate this journey. Step 1, the conscious decision. Forgiveness doesn't begin with a feeling. Often the feeling is the last thing to arrive. It begins with a decision, a conscious decision that you don't want to suffer anymore. It's you, in the silence of your heart, affirming, I choose peace instead of pain. I decide to begin the process of forgiveness, not because the other person deserves it, but because I deserve it. This decision is your starting point. It's the act of putting the key in the lock. You haven't turned it yet, but the most important movement has already been made. Step 2, recognize and validate your pain. Many people try to skip this step, going straight to a superficial forgiveness, which may just be a form of denial or what we call toxic forgiveness. To truly forgive, you first need to recognize the size of your pain. Allow yourself to feel. Feel the anger, the sadness, the betrayal. Don't judge your feelings. They're valid. Write about them. Talk to a trusted friend or therapist. Name your pain. Look at the wound head on, without fear. It's only when we recognize the extent of the damage that we can truly begin to fix it. Ignoring pain is like putting a Band-Aid on an infected wound. You need to clean it first. Step 3, the exercise of liberation. A very powerful technique is the letter exercise. Take paper and pen and write a letter to the person who hurt you. Important detail: this letter will never be sent. It's just for you. In it, let everything out without filters. Express all your anger, your pain, your disappointment. When you feel there's nothing more to say, end the letter with a declaration of power. Despite all this pain, from today on, I choose not to carry this weight anymore. I choose my freedom, and therefore I release you from the responsibility of healing my pain, and I free myself from the need for your approval. I forgive you not for you, but for me. I choose my peace. Afterwards, you can tear it up, burn it, or just keep the letter. The symbolic act of putting the pain out and declaring your freedom is incredibly transformative. Step 4, self-forgiveness. Often, this is the hardest part. Beneath the anger we feel toward the other person, there's a layer of anger we feel toward ourselves. Anger for having trusted, for having been vulnerable, for not having seen the signs. We carry guilt that prevents us from moving forward. Self-forgiveness is crucial. It's looking at your past self with compassion and understanding that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Forgive yourself for not being perfect. Forgive yourself for being human. Say to yourself, I forgive myself for putting myself in that situation. I learned from it, and now I can move forward with more wisdom. Treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend is fundamental for complete healing. Remember,
This is a process. There will be good days and days when the painful memory may try to return. Be patient and gentle with yourself. Each time the pain resurfaces, remember your decision. Remember the path you chose. With each step, you become stronger, lighter, and freer.
We've seen how the lack of forgiveness works like poison, trapping us in an agony that affects our mind and body. We redefined forgiveness, not as weakness, but as a supreme act of power and emotional intelligence, a gift we give ourselves. We talked about the liberation it brings, releasing our energy to build a future with more peace. And finally, we outlined a practical path for you to begin. The main message is this: the pain of the past is inevitable, but continuous suffering is a choice. Hurt may have been imposed on you, but resentment is a burden you choose to carry every day. Today, you can choose to let it go. The power to be free is not in the hands of those who hurt you. It never was. The power to be free is in your hands. Choose forgiveness. Choose your peace. To seal this commitment to your happiness and inspire others, leave here in the comments the phrase, "I choose to free myself." May each comment be a brick in building a community of support and healing. And if you want to continue on this growth journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any content that helps you build a fuller and more conscious life. Finally, if this message touched you, share this video with someone you love who might need to hear these words today. Sometimes a small gesture can initiate a great transformation in someone's life. Thank you for staying with me until now. Remember, your inner peace is your most precious asset. Protect it. Choose it every day.